Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope the answer to that is very well indeed, and that's great. And thanks for joining us here on Adobe Live in the UK at lunchtime on behance.net/Adobe Live. You can also watch us on YouTube, but the chat action is actually going on Behance. So come along and join us just there. And you can ask questions of myself, Tony Harmer, and my fab guest, who is today none other than Kyle Webster, the king of brushes himself. Hello, Kyle. How are you doing?
Hey, Tony. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm doing very well. Hope everybody else out there is doing well as well. Too many wells in that sentence, I think.
Lots of wells.
A man walks into the forest, he sees 3 deep holes and says, well, well, well.
There you go. Excellent. Well, Kyle, fantastic that you are joining us today. Really, really excellent, especially seeing as it's early o'clock for you, for your location. You are so good to us here in Europe. I know you stream on Adobe Live in France and you do it in French.
Yes, sort of.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, we have an excellent community here, Kyle, and I'm just going to say hello to a few of them. Some of them have been with us right from day one of Adobe Live. So they are excellent, excellent people. And even if they're joining afresh, you're still probably very excellent. So Kirsty is in the chat. Hi, Kirsty. And Michelle is here. Galana is here. Doris is here. Kathleen, Andreas, guten Tag. Andreas, Oliver Andrews. Hey, mate, how are you doing? And yeah, we've got plenty more coming in. So welcome, everyone. Welcome indeed. Great to see you here. So, Kyle, today I think we're going to be doing something everyone's going to enjoy.
Yes, you're doing it. You sound just like him.
It's because I don't come from too far away.
Little David Bowie for everybody. Check it out.
There we are.
Excellent. Excellent. I wish I could do that. I cannot do a David Bowie impression. I can only do Mickey Mouse. That's my one impression. So
we'll see if we can squeeze that out of you.
It'll come in, at some point when I'm using a certain brush, I'll just use it. You don't know when it's going to happen.
There we go. So it's the new, so it would have been the 75th birthday of David Bowie, right? Around about now.
So.
And there's a whole Adobe initiative around things, right? And that's what you're going to be going into, and some fab brush magic, yeah?
Yes, brushes. No surprise there. So
Cool.
Got 18 brand new beautiful brushes for everybody to play with, inspired by David Bowie. And actually, what happened was I was given a bunch of artwork that David Bowie had done. He himself was a visual artist, actually. Really liked drawing and painting, and they sent me some of his art, and I took a lot of the brushes that are in this set from his own drawings. So there was some pencil marks and some paints and something, this is what inspired it. In addition to, of course, a couple of other graphic elements that, of course, we're all familiar with, the Ziggy Stardust sort of lightning bolt and things like that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I guess we ought to get this show on the road then. So over to you then, Kyle. I'll just keep an eye on what's going on in the chat. Excellent.
Okay, so I'm going to dock my libraries over here. There we go. And you'll see I've got a little bit of reference here. So I thought we'd do some kind of a nice, I don't know if I'll call it a portrait. It'll be a portrait, but it'll be sort of a full body sort of a situation, illustration of David Bowie. I'm here in Photoshop, the beloved Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to do something where I would have him sort of here in the center in one of these sort of more dynamic poses, and then maybe bring in some other elements around him or sort of collaged in there that might take advantage of some of the shapes and other graphics that we're providing in this library for everybody. So for those of you who didn't hear the announcement, don't know what's going on, if you're wondering why we're talking about David Bowie, there is this Hidden Treasures campaign going on right now for everybody. And we have these free assets. We have brushes and we have stickers, if you want to call them that, graphics, basically, color palettes and things like that. All centered around David Bowie. And you can go to the UK page. We have the Hidden Treasures campaign there. And I'm sure if somebody could throw that in the chat, that'd be great. Yep. I can't see the chat myself, but I assume.
Yeah, Tim will drop that in. He's ace for all that stuff, Kyle.
Tim is the best. I agree. Yep. They're Beston. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Die Besten.
Die Besten. Darn it. I
think it's D. Tim will correct me.
I don't know. I should know because I'm married to a German, and these past 16 years I have not learned anything. So shame on me. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, you got this library, and if I pop that bag open just for a moment, you'll see I've got right here brushes here by Kyle T. Webster. That's me. And then there are textures. See this? You got these textures. And then a whole bunch of stickers. These are vector graphics and PNGs, all kinds of fun goodies in here. So, if you wanted to, for example, you could just take one of these and, just place it on your canvas and, mess around and make a sort of a David Bowie collage or whatever. So maybe we'll do some of that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, but back to the brushes. So I'm just gonna come here to my ABR files, and I'm gonna come on down and just do a quick demo of some of these brushes so people see what's going on. One of these brushes, just want to say up front, is not yet in the library, but we're going to make sure that we update the library and add it for you. So not to worry there. And I'll demonstrate that one first since it's right here at the top. This is the star brush. And this brush, what I like about it is that every time you make a mark, you're going to get either a additive or subtractive thing happening. And this is all due to the magic of dual brush and texture. Yeah. So in the brush settings panel. The other thing we're taking advantage of here is color dynamics. So very subtle color variation happening with every successive stamp that's laid down. So good textural brush. If I zoom in, you can see some really nice action there. Remember that these brushes are all high resolution. This is a 600 pixel brush. I wanted to make sure that these could work for high res stuff, not just for the low res stuff. And also a reminder to everybody out there that these brushes work beautifully in Adobe Fresco, which you can get on iPhone and iPad and on Windows. Okay. So there you go. That's that star brush. We've got this oddity brush. Oh, thanks. This one, I have no idea what this is. I don't know where this came from, but I had this idea of having a containment shape for these sort of crisscross patterned marks. And again, this is taking advantage of a dual brush thing, but as you bear down with more pressure, you're going to be able to fill in that space.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so if I were to come back over it with a lighter color, I could do this. But if I want to kind of get a little bit more full with that mark, I can use more pressure.
So given that you don't know where it came from, could you say it's a bit of an oddity?
I could. Yes, that's a very good
There we go. You'll use that in the next stream, right?
That's right, Tony. I'm stealing it. I'm not above stealing good puns.
There you go. Tim's got the best ones. Wow.
Tim is very funny.
He is.
This Heroes heavy brush. Now, of course, by the way, I should have mentioned, these names, of course, right? All inspired by Bowie songs or Bowie albums or personalities and things like that. Heroes heavy. This is a good painting brush. It's kind of chunky. It's got a nice feel to it, and it's also taking advantage of color dynamics in a more subtle way, so that every brush stroke is visible. In fact, occasionally you can get the impression that maybe you've got some kind of an impasto effect where the paint is sitting up on top of the surface of the other paint. Okay, this we're going to use a lot probably for some of the work that we're seeing here in my Bowie piece. Ashes, we'll take a look at this one. This one's similar to the other oddity brush in that there's a sort of pattern or negative space kind of activity going on in the interior here of the mark. All right, but again, with heavier pressure, I can load that up. What I like about this, though, is that no two marks are the same when it comes to just putting down a little spot of color. So, just for an accent, grabbing here, and just kind of pop something over there. So I can keep that color kind of consistent, but then just have these little bits of activity in there. That's kind of an interesting way to work. The illustrators out there know what I'm talking about. They're getting excited. I bet they're getting excited.
Yes.
Now, of course, we had to have this. Here's a little Ziggy brush. Okay. And this Ziggy brush, again, not going to be straightforward with just a single lightning bolt sort of a shape, right? It's got all kinds of activity, again, in the interior, just to make it more interesting. So this is a combination, again, of textural elements we're using in our brush settings. We have texture assigned to that, as well as some dual brush action and more color dynamics. But just remember that all these brushes are, of course, yours to edit and change however you wish. So you can look at them as, they're fine out of the box and everything's great, but if you want to edit them, if you want to refine them and make them do something specific, open up your brush settings. For example, let's say I don't want to use color dynamics. I can simply get rid of color dynamics and just paint with one color, right? If I, for example, did not want to have any texture associated with it, just get rid of the texture. Now I've just got the dual brush. If I don't want the dual brush, now I've just got the lightning bolt, which itself does have a shape to it that's got a bit of, you can see here if I just hover for a moment, there's that lightning bolt shape, okay? Yep. It's got a little bit of activity in it, right? Get rid of transfer, now it's just a solid stamp, okay? And I've still got shape dynamics going on, which is why the size is going to be slightly different. But go ahead and take these brushes, refine them, change them, make them do what you want. And if you ever want to save a new version of a brush, come on down to your brushes panel here. There's a little plus sign. Tap on that plus sign, make yourself a new brush, and you're golden, okay? Alrighty, so they're customizable, right? This pressure, so of course, Under Pressure, we're talking about the song done with good old Freddie Mercury there. These two brushes are meant to be sort of pencil marks or like graphite, okay? And these were inspired directly by some pencil drawing that was shown to me that Mr. David Bowie did. And what I like about these is if I use a tilt of my stylus, I'm going to tilt it away from vertical. So instead of it being perpendicular to the surface, I move it more towards parallel. I'm going to get more of this texture coming through like this, okay? More texture. But if I hold it more perpendicularly, I'm going to be able to bear down and get marks that are less, there's going to be less of that grit, less of that paper texture coming through. So you have a lot of control there for a whole variety of marks that you can change on the fly as you're drawing. So very good for that. And then the Pressure 2 has a different paper texture associated with it. This one came again directly from one of the drawings that was shared with me by Mr. David Bowie. And so I wanted to make sure and emulate that and get it to look just right. So two versions there for you to play with. And then we have a simple pencil for sketching. This is the Rebel pencil. Very nice for just simply making line art and drawing. And we're going to use that a little bit for some little details and just for adding a bit of sort of this kind of thing. I color over an area a couple of times in this drawing today, just to make it have a bit more of a sort of a 1980s magazine illustration vibe. This was a popular thing where people were using airbrush and colored pencil in combination of watercolor and colored pencil. You would often see people just take a pencil that was a slightly darker value, but same hue, and just draw like this over an area that had some flat color, so to speak. Okay. Yeah. By the way, the reason I use the photos here that you can see is because my introduction to David Bowie really was sort of the Let's Dance vibe. And so I just wanted to call back to that. And that time period, that's why I want to sort of try and get some of that coming through with the art. The Lazarus pen, very nice pen for drawing, okay? This is a simple thick to thin kind of a pen, but it does have a little bit of a breakup. You'll notice this here where the line sometimes isn't perfectly dark. And this is meant to be sort of what would happen with a sort of a felt pen that you've been working with. And maybe, you know, it's not got 100% of the ink in that well there. All right. Queen Bish, just trying to keep things clean here. But I think those who are Bowie fans know what this is referencing. And this is just a really cool sort of textural inking machine. All right. So, you know, if you just want to go ahead and have a lot of expressive line work, with a tool, just draw a little eye here, then this is going to be your go-to for that. Really expressive stuff. You can see how nice that is too.
I love that. I think one of my favorite Bowie collabs was with Mick Jagger, Dancing in the Streets. Do you remember that?
Oh, of course. Of course I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Very funny video if you watch it back.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, not funny, just of the time that it was produced, product of its time. But now to watch it back, it's a little kind of funny. It's a little like, oh, that looks different. But you can tell, the thing I like about that video actually is that you can tell though that I think they're genuinely just having fun.
Yeah.
Just singing this song, being good. So anywho, there you go. That's that Queen Bish, and there's a variant of it here, which allows you to get a much finer line, as well as do some different sort of stuff with those little broken up edges and things like that. So Mars, you know what this is referencing, is Your Life on Mars. This is sort of a painting tool. I would say I would use this more for painting now if I were doing like hair. Okay. So to be able to come in, do slightly darker, right? This is really clean, but it's still painterly. So it's got these edges to it that are gonna give you a little bit of unpredictability. Daydream, another painting tool, only this one, as you can see, it's sort of like, imagine if you had a brush where the bristles are just kind of a little bit messed up. You've been taking it, scumbling with it, yeah. You're gonna be able to do some interesting things with this. Alrighty. Now we go to some watercolor. He did a lot of watercolor sketching with those two pencils I showed, those pressure pencils. So what I like is the combination of the two tools. So if I take this magic water, for example, I'm just going to grab some blue just to keep things a little different, and put some paint down like this, and then come over to this one of these pressure brushes and draw with pencil over that. It's just nice to have that combination. This is sort of like what he had with these pencil drawings where he'd do some watercolor over it and come back, you know, put some of that water in there. Right, these have a brush mode of multiply. So everything I do is going to be additive
darken them up.
as I go.
Yep.
Bingo.
Nice. And
then changes is another watercolor brush. This one with a very different quality to it. You can see that.
It's almost salted, that, isn't it? Almost.
It does have a bit of a, yeah. Well, I think, and that's that part of what's happening there is we're taking advantage of the wet edges right here. And then the interior where you're getting all that grit. Yeah, you know, that salt effect you get with watercolor. I think that's because there's a pretty heavy paper texture in there, and there's some dual brush action that's adding sort of that those little whiter, those splotches that are irregular and so on. If I use really light pressure too, you'll see it.
It's a lovely brush, that.
Coming through. This is a fun one, I think. Thank you. This is one also that I know Frank will like, because a lot of the sort of base of this brush came from a brush called Washi Warren. I know he uses a lot. And that's named after my dad. What's that?
Frank Payne?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. There you go. And we're almost through the list here. So coming on down to Hunky from Hunky Dory, which is the only David Bowie album I own on vinyl. And this is just a good chunky painting brush, and good for backgrounds and things like that. You can really make this a big brush. I can push it up to like 600 pixels, and it's going to hold its shape. So I remember I said that these brushes were designed for high res stuff, so you can really go crazy with these. And remember that if you're working in fresco, everything's running on the GPU, so you can go even larger and don't have to worry about any brush lag or anything like that. Now you can't have Hunky without Dory. So here's Dory. Hunky and Dory play very nicely together. This one gives you some really fine work, but still taking advantage of some subtle color dynamics business. I like the way this one works.
And Sandrine in the chat saying this one turned, I think she was talking about the previous brush, turned as an eraser will be great. And of course you can do that by switching the blend mode to clear or holding down the tilde key, I think it is on a Mac.
Correct.
We'll take you across to that. So you can do that, Sandrine.
Yeah, so here I am painting. I hold down the tilde key. Now I'm erasing with the same brush.
Yep.
Same textures. Or you can come over here, brush mode clear. Same deal.
Yep.
Very good tip.
And Sandrine, I think you're on the Windows platform, right? So you can do that by Shift-Alt-R. Will take you through to the clear blend mode.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Shift-Option-R for you on a Mac, Carl. That will switch you that way.
Shift-Option-R.
Yeah, so just do that as a keyboard shortcut. It switches the blend mode to clear. It only works with brushes. It doesn't work with other tools because it's not like a layer-based thing.
How about that? It's hard for me as a left-handed person because when my right trying to like figure out
right, okay, to do it. Yeah.
But that's a good one. I'm gonna
and then Shift-Alt-N to switch back to normal. Or
I was gonna say I'm gonna put that in my thing. I have a list of keyboard shortcuts for everybody that I post, and that's one that I'm missing. I actually put out a little call to everybody saying, please add one for me. And Tony, I didn't get one from you, and now I have.
There we go.
All right, check it out. There we go. This is the Genie Inker. Genie, coming again from the song title.
Yeah.
And this one actually is inspired by, if you've ever had one of these broken up felt tip pens where if you use a felt tip pen where you've been very, very bad with it, you've been very aggressive, you've made all kinds of marks, okay? You can actually take that little felt tip bit and it can get a little bit sort of broken apart in the front or on the tips there. And I hope this is coming through. But if I use light pressure, okay, it's sort of like I'm drawing on just a corner or the circumference, one of the little edge of the thing, of the tip of the felt tip pen. But if I sort of bear down, it gets chunkier like this and broken apart. And also you get a lighter sort of, what I'm trying to capture here is the wetness of the ink. But there's also a dilution factor here where it's not 100% opaque. This is hard to communicate, but hopefully it looks okay.
Oh no, it's fabulous. Karina in the chat's saying, ooh, such a lovely brush.
Oh, good. I'm glad that people like this one.
Now, they're all great. I think it's so much goodness in there.
Well, this is stuff that, again, is inspired by his own stuff because he used, of course, he wasn't so much into visual art that he was going crazy with a lot of very special materials. He's probably picking things up here and there like the rest of us do, normal, basic art supplies. But there was a quality to them that I was trying to capture. And I think in some ways that's similar a little bit to a couple of years ago, we did a Keith Haring Hidden Treasures. And Keith Haring famously would go to not really art supply stores, but just like a drugstore or a hardware store, and just get whatever was available. And I don't think David Bowie was much different in that respect. But I will say, for those of you in the UK, and I hope that you're aware of one of my art heroes, Quentin Blake, Quentin Blake.
Yeah.
Anybody who's interested in sort of emulating that line quality that he has, I think you can't do much better than this particular brush, because you can imagine, the way he does sort of that line.
That's a very good Quentin Blake style profile.
There he is.
Yeah.
And I think let me zoom in so we can get the sort of quality of that. Maybe if I go too far to the pixel level, it's not really worth it. But anyway, you get the idea, right?
Yeah. Of course, another great illustrator to feature in Pride Month, of course, Quentin Blake. So
feature in what? Sorry?
In Pride Month. It's Pride Month, isn't it? So
of course.
Quentin Blake would be a good illustrator to celebrate this month as well.
I didn't even, it was an accident, but it worked out beautifully.
Yeah.
This is the last in the group. And now the one thing you'll notice is if you're using these in a library, I think they get organized. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they went alphabetically. Yes. So I probably went out of order for people who are looking at it in the library, and I apologize for that. But that's okay. Major Time. Now, this is one of those brushes. I can't say this is practical in the least, but it's just fun. So if you're looking for something that you want to just kind of throw a little bit of a spacey kind of vibe to it, this is your friend here, Major Tom, because as you can see, it's sort of like, galaxy kind of stuff. It's just swirls and stars. So totally impractical, but every now and then I got to make stuff like that. Okay.
Very cool.
Any questions in the chat about any brushes, or should I just roll for it?
No, it's generally at the moment, Carl, just admiration. It's
really?
yeah. People are loving. There's been comments throughout about how good the brushes are. Lovely looking brushes. These brushes are great. And of course about Bowie himself, you know, such an iconic inspiration. Yes, so no questions as yet, but don't forget, people, this is your opportunity to ask Carl questions about the brushes. So yeah,
but perhaps we better end on a high note. I'll say see you later. That's my time, because if we're going to get to the drawing, then we're starting to let people down.
cool. Okay.
Just kidding. Okay, let's do it. Alrighty. So like I said, it'd be kind of fun to have a full body pose with maybe some other elements. Okay. And so let's do it. We've got about an hour together here to make something happen. That's plenty of time. So I think what I'd like to do is, and these are inspiring me to sort of like energetic, dynamic kind of a look. All right. So it'd be a combination of these two poses would be kind of fun. So we could have a little Bowie here. And I'm going to be using, by the way, right here, this pressure pencil, just because I want to sketch big. Okay. I don't want to get into like a lot of detail at the moment. I just want to get something down. I'm going to get the David Bowie head right there. That's going to do it for me. And we're going to have, I think, the microphone here and the arm out here. So he's going to be, or maybe I'll tilt the mic down, have the hand here, and we'll do this kind of a thing. Okay.
Good technique. Draw the hands first. Excellent. It is, though. It's a really good technique, that is, for getting the proportions right. If you get the hands in the right place, everything else should be fairly easy. You know, you need a torso and you need a hand, and then you should be able to work out the rest. Yeah,
it's a good point. I like this, how he's sort of leaning back. So this kind of thing kind of might want to, and also there's a nice thing happening with this camera angle here where it distorts, you know, because of foreshortening, what's happening. And I can even do things like this. I can use free transform right at the sketch stage, just to try to sort of think about how to get things a bit more dynamic, a bit more interesting. Right. And we can bring this towards us like this. I really like what's happening with that leg. That's a pretty exciting, pretty awesome. And then the pant leg is doing all kinds of fun stuff right there. Right. It's got this baggy sort of pants down through the middle. And then you can see, because of gravity, at the front of the pant leg is falling down. But what that does then is, because it's hugging his leg there, it's making it more skinny when compared with what happens with this leg right here, which kind of flares out, right? Anyway, a lot of cool curvilinear stuff happening, a lot of nice organic curve stuff. It's just exciting as a pose. So I'm just going to modify this. I've got this hand down, similar to this pose, instead of up, but then this hand up holding that mic. And I could also angle his head a bit. So maybe I'll have him more sort of singing in this direction. So there's an ear. That just throwing a little ear in there helps me to always orient the head. I understand the orientation of the head. Ears are a good thing to help people understand. You know, if you do this, just draw a little shape for a head, and then you do this, you know, people get it. Or if you do this, people get it. Or if you do, you know, this, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm looking up. Everything's going to be, you know, this kind of stuff. All right. So
Michelle is asking in the chat, by the way, of all the brushes, which one is your favorite and why?
Of all the brushes?
I'm wondering if she means of all of the brushes we're looking at today. I mean, of your entire collection, man, that
would be tough.
That would be quite a task.
Good gracious. Yeah, because there are about 2,000 of them.
Yeah. Maybe, I like big, beautiful mess.
We could get a specific, if you want to ask specifically about this set, or if you're asking about them all, I could try to answer both. In this set, let's see. That's a tough question, isn't it? Well, I do like that pen we were playing with a moment ago, that Genie inker, just because I mean, again, I love Quentin Blake and I like drawing that way. That's fun. But well, I also like that watercolor brush we were playing with, that Changes brush, a lot.
Tough question. Man, it's like saying, which one of your kids is the one you like the most?
So here's the thing I want to say about and this is not me bragging. This is me just talking about philosophy.
Yeah.
And I learned this from Bobby Chu, who's the host of the Lightbox
Expo.
conference
Yeah.
in California. And
Mm.
one of the things he said about putting on the first Lightbox, and I love this, and as he said, I believe in all killer, no filler. And I said, all right, well, that's been my philosophy. Making brushes from the beginning was always, I'm not going to make it unless it's really good, and I would want to use it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's hard for me really to pick favorites, just because I try not to make any filler. I try to make good brushes all around. Doesn't mean I'm always successful, but it is definitely what I'm striving for. And I think that's a good thing to strive for.
That is an excellent answer.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Okay. I'm
Very
off the
good.
hook. I'm off the hook.
You're off the hook. You are.
If you want to know which brush I use the most, probably more than any other brush, there is a brush I use probably more than any other brush called Creamy and Creamy Variation. There are these two brushes I made, you know, for Photoshop prior to my joining Adobe. And I just, the reason I use that one so much is it just got this painty kind of look to it that makes me happy. So, you know, I bounce around and I go to all kinds of other brushes all the time. But if I were going to come back to one the most, that's the one I probably come back to most often. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a useful thing to know, but that's in the Mega Pack painting box. Okay, so there's that. I love how you can see the pleats here. That's kind of a nice thing. I think that might be something that makes its way into the piece. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know how painty this is going to get or how much it's going to be about drawing. It's just going to be a whole mess because we're going to use a lot of different brushes to get this going. Mm. So there's the sort of general pose there, okay, which we can enjoy. And he really was a great entertainer, David Bowie. I love that he was just not one thing. Movie star.
Yes, the man who fell to earth. I remember watching that when I was a kid.
You know what, Tony? I still haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah, shame on me. Have not.
I was quite young. I wish I can vaguely remember.
Was it on BBC? Was it on TV?
It was on TV. Yeah, yeah. It would have been, and it would have been at the time either BBC or ITV.
Yeah.
Back then there were two BBC channels and ITV. That was it.
Only two BBCs when I was.
There were then, yeah.
Four, I think, when I was there in 97. Does that sound right? Were there four then?
97 there would have been four. Yeah. So Channel 4 came along in the early 1980s. Channel 4 did. So
okay.
Yeah,
it was pretty great though, because as far as I could tell, it felt a lot like the same philosophy with BBC when I was there. Mm-hmm. All killer, no filler in some respects. Maybe not all, but it's like you only got a few channels here, but we're going to show interesting documentaries. We're going to show funny sitcoms, and I don't know. I was impressed. Mm. But everyone, everything's, it's a grass is always greener situation. I don't know. If you're from the UK, maybe you're like, whatever. But then, in the States, I think a lot of us are such great admirers of English comedy. At least I am.
Drama comedy, funnily enough, it had comedic moments, but it was essentially a drama, a science fiction drama at that. Very, 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 very related to David Bowie was the Life on Mars, which I think the US tried a version of that.
Oh, really?
As well. So yeah, it's about a police officer who wakes up in the 1970s. He's been transported back in time.
Yeah.
And I think there were two series of that, I think. where he's dealing with the changes inside of between policing then in Manchester and in the UK generally, and his modern approach to policing. And then that was followed up by a series called Ashes to Ashes.
No way.
Yeah, but there were loads of titles in there that were song titles, you know. So it was all, and lots of references. And there was even a Pierrot clown at one point that looked
like the David Bowie.
like the boat. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that show or of the attempted American remake. Or
oh man, if you get the chance to watch the original BBC one, fantastic.
I will.
Really, really good. John Sims stars in it. I met him once in a hotel in Manchester, staying at the same hotel. Really good.
Oh, and what did you say? Because I always, whenever I meet a celebrity, I'm like, what do I say that isn't the same thing everyone else says?
I just told him that we really love his work in our house, which is true. I said the same when I met Idris Elba.
I was going to say Luther was the one.
Yeah, Luther, my wife. So there's a whole story about that. I could tell you when my wife, I had a half day. I was going to a meeting in the South Bank Centre. This is the second time this week I've told this story, actually. and my wife had a day off. And I said, why don't you come to work with me? I've got this meeting in the morning. And then we could just hang out for the rest of the day. We'll go around London. We'll do, you know, some. And she said, oh, no, I'm just going to rest up and just do some housework and read and whatever. And I said, okay. So I went to this meeting in the South Bank Centre, and at the table next to me was Idris Elba.
Oh, she missed out.
Well, I went and phoned her and just said, you are never going to believe who is on the table next to me.
Yeah.
And she goes, go on, surprise me. Because I'm a bit of a practical joker, Kyle, as you well know. And I said, Idris Elba. And she goes, you're not even funny. Just get on with your work. So I spoke to him after our meetings finished at about the same time. And I spoke to him and I said, any chance of a selfie? Because my wife just will not believe. He's going, oh, I don't know, man, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, we really love you in my house. And she is never going to believe me. And he goes, okay, then fine. So we did a couple.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we did a couple of selfies. And I text them to her.
She must have just fallen over.
I phoned her and it said, you know, haha. But no, I just told him I loved it. Told him the truth, that we really loved his work. And in fact, I because I taunter with it sometimes, I have that selfie here on my phone. I don't know how well you can see that.
Oh, I do see that. That's a good one. Yeah.
There you go.
Look at that tall drink of water. He's a cool guy.
He is a very cool. He's really, really nice. Really nice guy.
Oh, I'm not surprised. But that just makes me happy to hear it. Have it confirmed.
He is really
guy.
Fantastic. The Neil in the chat, by the way, is telling us that Channel 4 launched 40 years ago on the 2nd of November, 1982.
2nd of November, 1982.
Yes. Oh, okay. Labyrinth. I'd forgotten. I only watched Labyrinth a little while ago.
Labyrinth. Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Of the recent Top Gun reboot there.
Yeah.
Or sequel. I don't know which one to call it. Sequel, I guess. Yeah.
That's right. I went to watch that the other day. It's very good.
Very summer blockbuster. Tom Cruise does that very well.
The drawing is going down very well, by the way, in the chat. Just I was off topic with you a little while there.
Oh, good.
The drawing's going down very well, and people love watching you draw.
Oh, wow. Thanks. The thing is, this drawing is probably all going to just disappear. I love drawing, and I like the drawing phase. I sometimes just kind of am having too much fun that I'm not moving on. I'm just kind of enjoying making marks with a virtual pencil, and just. But all this stuff in the background, I'm trying to give myself some ideas for just shapes and passages, movement.
Yep.
That will help me to kind of design out what happens back there. All right. So anyway, probably fiddling around with this long enough now, and we can move on. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just work on one layer. I don't know if I'll do that this time. I might actually bother to use different layers. I can't decide. I think I'll do this. Just this is a weird thing. I'll duplicate the layer and work on it directly and then see where things go. Alrighty, so we're using this pressure brush right now. This is just like a pencil brush. And I said we are going to probably play around a lot with the hunky brush and also with the, where'd it go? Here it is, the Heroes Heavy brush. So with this Heroes Heavy brush, what I'm able to do is with light pressure, you see I can just sort of tone, if you like, or I can paint over an area, but I can still see sort of through it.
Yeah.
It's not 100% opaque, right? So this yellow is kind of fun. This suit, and I know that he was on this tour and in this time period. There was also kind of a bright green, but like more of a mint, I guess like a mint, but
Yeah.
more like mint chocolate chip ice cream than mint.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it would have been
Kind of
very
color.
pastel back in the days. That would have been the thing, right?
That was it, right? Very
Yeah.
pastel-y. And I think, what's cool about doing something like this is I can just test stuff out. So I can say, all right, am I feeling the yellow because his hair was so blonde? They just kind of like go hand in hand. That's kind of a nice thing to have happen. It's just that echo of that, up in the hair. And as I look at this, I'm just so interested to see probably a lot of how some of these movements, he may have been, a little inspired by Elvis. When I look at this, I just think I sort of see some.
Yeah, there is something there. Yeah. Agree. Yeah. Karina, by the way, has a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you start creating a new brush? Do you already start when you have an idea of how you want it to be, or a feeling you'd like to recreate? Is that kind of what you're after?
Yeah, so that's definitely a way I start. Sometimes it's different every time. So sometimes I will actually be after a very specific look. Now, of course, with these David Bowie brushes, the pencil I was just using, right? We saw that I mentioned that was coming specifically from pencil marks on a certain kind of textured paper that I was able to replicate from sketches they sent me of his. So in that case, yes, I'm working that way. Or with the Edvard Munch brushes, which I did for Hidden Treasures back in 2017.
It's unbelievable that you got access to. You also got, really didn't cool. You also get access to
Keith Haring?
Yes, I knew that one, but didn't you didn't you also get access to I'm trying to remember which French painter it was. I'm sure you got access to, but I saw the Munch brushes. Fantastic.
No, I didn't get to do any. I did an impressionist. Oh no! Wait a second. Were you? Well, I don't know if you were privy to these conversations or not, but there was a conversation I had a year after Munch brushes with the same team, saying, "I really wish we could do a French impressionist Hidden Treasures."
Yeah.
And that idea got kicked around a little bit and then fell. It just went away.
Right. Okay.
I'd love
I think
to
I might have
it,
just I think I might have just been involved in there somewhere. But anyway, sorry.
I would love I want to resurrect that one. Let's get that idea going, and let's make someone make it happen, because I just thought, come on, folks. I just did a masterclass last Friday on impressionism, painting in Photoshop with impressionist brushes, and but anyhow, so to answer your question, so in that case, of course, those were very specific, highly specific. And then other times what I'll do is I'll just think of a theme. So if it was, for example, the manga brushes, I just think, well, what kind of brushes does a manga artist need? And I'll try and set out about making something like that, useful stuff for them. And then other times I'll just make a stamp with nothing in mind. Just make a stamp, make a shape, and start combining it with different other shapes for dual brush, and start playing with different textures. And creating textures now is a billion times easier than I used to go through hours and hours and hours and hours of work to make just one single texture, because I had to make it tile seamlessly. And now I just use pattern preview mode in Photoshop, and I don't have to do that anymore. If anyone out there is not familiar with this, you go to View, Pattern Preview. And that's all you have to do. And now all of a sudden, look, my document is already in pattern mode. So if I draw anything, right, it's going to come across the entire,
generates you that tile.
Yeah. So I can now, for creating textures and things like that, I can much more quickly do it, and I'll try all kinds of things, experiment with that. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of playing around. It's I think innovation a lot of times comes from the combination of expertise and play.
Yeah.
So if you combine these two things, if you've been doing something for a long time, you're sort of a quote unquote expert at it. So for me, like working around with the brush settings panel is just kind of like, it's like playing an instrument or whatever. And then it's the experimentation part, the playful part, the what happens if I try this, and you combine those two, and all the times that's how you get something new or something kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Hope that helps, and hope that's
oh yeah. There's lots of people, by the way, commented on their favorite brushes. Sandrine loves the entire comic set.
Oh, nice, great.
Entirety. So, and others like in half tones. Yes, the comic pack. They're still referring to them as the packs that you had on your. They're still there though, aren't they? Right, your Kyle.
Yeah,
your
they're
website
all organized. They're organized the same way on the Adobe download page for the brushes. So if you go, if you're in Photoshop, this is very hidden, and I wish they would fix this. I want it to be easier for people to find brushes.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they open Photoshop, they'll see my name on some of the default brushes, and they'll think, oh, cool, I got the Kyle brushes. Not realizing there are 2,000 of them right here. If you tap on this tiny little hamburger drop-down menu, get more brushes.
Yep. And
that will launch this sign-in page for you to grab the mother load.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway.
One of my friends, Sam Gilby, who is
I know Sam.
You know Sam? Sam doesn't live too far away from here, actually.
No way.
And if he's watching,
know him through his work, by the way, Tony. I don't know him personally. I just love his work.
Oh no! Well, next time you're in the UK, I'll make sure you get intro. He's a lovely guy, and if he is, Sam, if you're watching, I will get around to that coffee, mate. I promise. Absolutely promise. Sam's great, but I remember sitting in Covent Garden with him at one point and talking about, sorry, not Covent Garden, Carnaby Street. We're on Carnaby Street and talking about your brushes.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Very long talk about your brushes.
Oh, I'm flattered that people would take time to talk about brushes when they've got time off.
Oh no, man, you come on. You've got the reputation you've got is for a reason, right? It's not an accident. That,
that's nice. Thank you.
They are the industry standard for lots and lots of illustrators, especially in the kind of work Sam does.
Yeah, he is really good.
He's fantastic because he's traditional as well, and I think that informs his choice of brushes nicely. So
yeah, I think that's the thing is one of the I make brushes based a lot, actually. This is going back to the earlier question. A lot of the stuff I make is actually just based on my experiences with natural media, because having gone to fine art school, studying fine art in college.
Yeah.
Right. That was my major. And having no access to Photoshop or anything like that until my senior year of school. It was the first time I ever even saw Photoshop or had even heard of it. So leading up to that, everything I did was just paints and pencils and charcoal and everything else. So of course, I had a lot of experience working with oils and watercolors and everything else. And to then suddenly be working in this new medium, Photoshop, one of the things I instantly was trying to do right out of the gate was just make things feel like what I was used to. I think that's just kind of a normal sort of thing that you do. And that's sort of what I think made it easier for me, maybe than for some other folks, to be able to more faithfully reproduce some of the look and feel of traditional media, because I've been using it already so much before sort of making that jump into digital, Yeah.
It's a good thing. I mean, when I was studying art, I studied fine art first and then switched to graphics.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be poor.
Yeah.
Basically, but the Photoshop wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye back then.
Right. No, because it came out in what, 1989?
Yeah,
am I getting that right?
1989. Yeah, I was at work by then.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, students today, of course, a lot of them are coming into art school having only done digital and really not having played much with traditional materials at all. And that's just the way it is. It's just, it's a medium like any other. But I would encourage anybody out there who's only ever worked digitally, I would definitely encourage you to play with traditional media and do some work in it, simply because I think it'll give you new ideas for how to work digitally. They really play nicely together. They work hand in hand. I've always believed that every time I pick up, colored pencils or watercolors and do some painting, with all the restrictions that come with that, all the ways you have to kind of slow down and be conscious of decisions you're making and really take your time and think things through, because you don't have Command Z. This does make it different when you go back to digital painting. There's something that happens. I can't explain it really, but you start to make marks differently. You think about things a little differently. You might limit yourself digitally a bit more. You might kind of just use, I'm going to use a couple of these tools and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. I think it can lead to some pretty good results. So, yeah, just some thinking there, thinking out loud.
Man, next time you're over here, you've got to come in here. You'd love it.
Oh, where are you? In your studio?
Just outside of Cambridge. Yeah. There are literally thousands of pencils in here.
Ooh.
Thousands.
But then, Tony, I'd never leave. Is that okay?
Yeah, man. You can, and honestly, it's all the paper you could want. There's so many different types of paper in here. It's good. You could just hang out, mate, for ages. Do whatever you want.
Okay.
I'll keep you some board space hot.
I have a friend who, whenever we get together, our whole family goes over to her house and we just sit and hang out. But whenever we do, she's got this new sort of habit of she puts out watercolor in the middle of the table. We all go to her backyard. She's got this really beautiful little sitting area with it's like a covered area with it. It's like is trellis the right word? It's got
trellis, trellis fencing,
it's growing and there's ivy growing all over it.
Yeah.
And it's all pretty, and then it's covered, and there's even a fan, and it's like a beautiful porch, but not a porch because it's separate from the house. And she puts out watercolor, and we always, while we're sitting and chatting and catching up, everyone's also busy just doodling with the watercolors and making little stuff. And it's become such a fun thing to look forward to. There's no pressure. You don't have to make anything good. You're just having fun. But occasionally something cool comes out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I said to after the Adobe session in London on Monday, that there was an Adobe event for an invited audience on Monday, for those of you in the chat, so you haven't missed anything per se. But after attending that event, when I got home, or the following day actually, because I got home really late, but that's another story. I said to my wife, I have decided that on one Monday in every month, I am going to, because we're members of the British Museum, I am going to go to the British Museum. I'm going to draw all day. Then I'm going to go to a Ted's grooming lounge for a haircut, beard trim, and massage. Then come home.
That is a day.
Oh, I think so. I might actually start putting it on Twitter. I used to do a Tony's Day out in London at the House of Illustration before COVID. I might start rebooting those actually, or I invite anybody who wants to turn up. We'll just tell them what time and where we're going to be, and then go and watch the current exhibition at the House of Illustration.
Oh, I want to do that.
Well, I'll put you on the list. You'll be invited.
I wish I didn't live so far from London. I mean, just getting to you is $1,000.
Yes, crazy. It's crazy.
It's not convenient.
Yeah.
It's not convenient.
Tim said he would do the same thing, but with musical instruments.
Oh, cool.
It's like he's talking about brush loading. There you go.
So you see what I'm just playing around like this and just throwing some color down. But if you zoom in, it's kind of fun because you do get, we're speaking of natural media, it's kind of like a pastel kind of a thing going on here. And that wasn't intentional, but it's starting to just sort of happen. So I'm just kind of letting it happen. you know, I don't know where this is going to go, but it is fun.
And it's
And
nicely developing those forms as well. You really are.
oh, thanks. Well, you know, I think part of why that works out okay is because that pencil drawing, we're just drawing on the same layer.
Yeah.
So some of that info just carries through, and we can use it, you know. I switched brushes there while we were chatting to the hunky brush right now. I'm just playing around with that, and that's a fun brush to play with as well.
I launched Photoshop at the beginning of the stream, and I'm going to, well, during my lunch break after this, I'm going to sit and play with all of these. I did play with a few on fresco last night, but I'm going to play with all of these later on.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, is it's fun. You could start something in Photoshop, and you could, if you want, then just go sit on the couch and finish it in fresco.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty great because everything, if you're saving to the cloud, of course, you know, it's just there whenever you need it. So another thing I can do is I'll get to a point here where I'll probably start to reintroduce some line art, you know, so maybe there'll be some line art here and there. And that'll be a nice thing. Remember I mentioned that scene right there?
Yeah.
I kind of want to see if I can just sort of pull that out like that. A lot of what I'm doing is using the eyedropper tool, temporarily calling it up by holding down the eyedropper, the option key.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there who don't make a habit of doing that, recommend it. It's the fastest.
You can also, a way you can also access that is to use the spring-loaded keys function. And if you just hold down I on the keyboard, don't tap it, but if you hold down I, it switches to the eyedropper. You can then use it, release the I key, and then carry on painting because it returns to the brush.
That's amazing. I never knew that. Yeah,
spring-loaded keys. They've been around for a while, right? But people, there's so much. Like you said, I can't remember the term you used to refer to the enormity of Photoshop in the green room earlier, but it is such a vast.
I said it's the Titanic.
Titanic. You did.
It really is. It's just, I mean, the amount of stuff that's just packed into it. How could anybody know it all?
Oh man, it's crazy.
But that's what's so fun about shows like this, or about hanging out with guys like you, is that everyone knows something, and it might not be the same thing that the other guy knows, the other person knows, right? And so then you're talking and you're like, oh, I never knew that. And then the other person says, oh, I never knew that. And then you have these cool exchanges where
so that's the beauty of this kind of collaboration, isn't it? It's just really nice. By the way, just quickly, Jane in the chat, you're right. The Bowie brushes aren't on the usual Photoshop pages, brushes page. They're not there. You do need to go to that Adobe post. Tim, if you'd be so kind, would you just drop the link into the chat again? But the brushes are in the library. There are other assets in the library as well, but they are there in the library, so you can get to them.
Yes, don't worry, they're there. Also, I would say there's no information yet about this, but it is possible that a year from now, I think usually these campaigns run for about a year, Tony, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's possible about a year from now that these brushes will wind up being parked on that Adobe brush download page. We did that with the Keith Haring brushes. We did not do that with the Monk brushes. A lot of this stuff was it's legal stuff, to be honest. It depends on what kind of things we've signed with different groups of people. So for example, with Bowie, it would be the foundation, you know, and his whoever manages his estate and his the rights to his name and everything else like that, whether or not we'd be able to have to park those, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, that stuff's obviously way outside of my purview as an Adobe design evangelist. I'm not going to be talking legalese with people.
No, it's not fun.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
General Kenobi in the chat, by the way, saying the assets will make a fine addition to my collection. Stuart saying every day is a learning day. And do you know what? I think, Stuart, you won't go far wrong if that's your approach to life. If you're open to the fact that there is always more to learn, you'll have a good life, I think.
Yeah, gosh, can't go wrong with that attitude.
Mm.
I definitely learn something every day. Not always what I want to learn, but oftentimes I learn something that makes me really sad.
Do you know, I purposely make space. I spend at least 15 minutes every single day, every day of the week, 15 minutes learning something, whether I'm watching a tutorial on YouTube or whether I'm watching something on LinkedIn Learning, where we're both present,
Yes.
of course, or whether I'm watching a TED Talk or whether I'm just watching a documentary. Every day, at least 15 minutes.
That's the way to do it.
You know,
You're inspiring me today to
oh man, thank you.
do more stuff with my education, my ongoing education. I did have a nice membership to speaking of Bobby Chu, we were talking about Bobby Chu a little while ago. I had a nice membership to his online learning platform. It's called Schoolism.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if anybody out there is familiar with Schoolism, but pretty fantastic. I mean, I did take advantage of it for a year, and then I let the membership lapse and haven't been doing it for a while. But while I was doing it, it was great. So I need to do that again.
I have subscribed to so many different platforms and things. Oh man, crazy.
Well, there are a lot of good options out there now.
Oh man,
the thing
yeah.
I love about Behance is, folks, it's free.
Yeah.
It's free. It's a community. It's live. You can ask questions in real time with the presenters, and there's just nothing else quite like that, really.
No,
it
is good.
It's pretty special.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful to be able to be a part of it and be able to present to people and do what I love. I love drawing. I love painting. I love making pictures. And one thing that it took some getting used to, of course, was doing it while talking. But I've gotten better at that.
Yeah. Oh no, man, you're grand. It's I moved my own. So I have an Illustrator live stream on Fridays. I moved mine onto Behance 2 weeks ago. Well, I simulcast it, so it's still on YouTube for the people that like to watch it there. But
yeah,
I'm kind of moving it more towards.
Well, the chat in Behance is, I mean, I love this community. People, I see the same names a lot of the time. I feel almost like I know people, even though I've never met them. There is a nice feeling of community where the same folks show up every week for certain streams. And when I was doing, I had a show for a year and almost 2 years actually, called Draw Along with Kyle.
Oh yeah. No, I've watched some of those.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
That show was originally created as soon as when the pandemic hit. It was our chief product officer, Scott Belsky, was like, we should do a show for kids who now can't go to school. They're stuck at home and they need some creativity, little outlet for creativity in the day. And we came up with this draw along show, but then, you know, what wound up happening is funny was, you know, people went back to school and stuff, and a lot of the audience actually changed. Like then all of a sudden had a lot of people tuning in who weren't kids.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just morphed into this more sort of just appreciation for drawing with simple shapes and things like that. And it became sort of a different show, and I loved it. But what was fun was after the first, you know, like 3 or 4 months, I started noticing exactly the same people showing up. You know, there always be some different people in there as well, some people I hadn't seen before, but there was a specific group of people who would show up pretty much every episode. And I really started to feel like, oh, this is the draw along crowd. And it's like, you know, this group is really specific. This is the draw along bunch, and we're all together every week, and it felt really cool. It's great.
No, I love it. I mean, on this, so I've been doing this stream almost since the start here, and I have a genuine emotional connection
Wow.
to the regular people that are on here. It's like if they don't appear any particular, for like 2 weeks in a row, I'm thinking, where are they?
Where'd
Why
they
aren't
go?
they here? I hope everything's okay.
Right.
But it's just, we've got such, and people kind of, I think they come for the tips and for the learning stuff, but I think they also stay a lot for the genuine community feeling that there is here. I love that.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's not it's just an organic, real thing that happens. And I really think it's amazing that it exists. So as much as I often, complain about how evil the internet is and how it brings out the worst in humanity. Look at what else it does. It brings us all together. We get to draw, we get to learn about making art together and just appreciate all this stuff. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know what's going on here. You can tell that I'm just sort of in this kind of flow state.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think everybody is loving it, and they have a nice chat about learning in the community as well at the same time. So it's good. Somebody was actually asking how you would define. Let me just see if I can find that. Vida was saying, how would you define your drawing style?
I just don't have one. I mean, if you go to my website, you'll see evidence of this. I have certain things I'll do frequently in terms of just like stylistically. There are some things I'll sort of go back to time and again, but honestly, there's not as much consistency there as the average illustrator, I would say, and that's because, again, my background being what it was with just regular old painting naked people for 4 years. I was never concerned with style. I was just concerned with like learning how to draw, like stuff that was in front of me. Does it look like the thing I'm looking at? Okay, great, move on. And so, while there are certain stylistic elements that are you're going to notice them in my work coming up a lot. If you go to my website, you'll see that there are also at the same time, all kinds of little experiments stylistically. I don't market myself as any one kind of illustrator, and I don't draw any one kind of way from day to day. So what I'm doing right now, if you look at this, looks nothing like anything else on my site.
I'm exactly the same. I don't like to anchor myself particularly to anything.
It's and there's certainly nothing wrong with having a specific consistent style. In fact, a lot of people would say that's definitely the only way to go. I don't agree with that, only for my own work. That's I talk about what works for me. So my illustration career, which is not busy because I work for Adobe, but when I was busy, what I was doing was something different every week, stylistically, and I think it's because my portfolio reflected that. I got a lot of work from people who were just confident that whatever it was, I could probably take care of it. But that's not necessarily true for everybody. A lot of times I think you could confuse art directors. They're like, who is this person? What is it they actually do? And I'm sure a lot of art directors maybe visited my site back in the day and were like, well, I don't know what this guy does. And they just never bothered to call me. But I wouldn't know because those people, if they don't call me, I don't know they're not calling me.
Yeah. I think it's representation as well. I think if you have an agent and you've got something that's working, your agent kind of says, well, maybe you should get a little bit more of that or I could definitely sell this. And, I think that's the thing sometimes that your representation kicks in and says like, hey.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think reps are good for some things and not for others. And also for some artists and not for others. I personally right now have 2 different reps for different things. I have a rep for sort of like advertising and illustration and some other things. And then I have another rep for picture book illustration. And I chose to work with these 2 people for different reasons. and I wouldn't ever go to one of them for the other thing. They each have, but the thing about both of them that I like is that from day one, when I signed on with them, I explained that I wasn't gonna just conform to one little style or whatever, one way of working. That's just not what makes me happy. And I think it's cool that they were fine with that. They didn't have any issues with that. So I really like that about them.
That's cool. Tim, by the way, he loved the draw along shows, especially when you drew something and then turned it into something else. He was bamboozled every time.
Thank you very much. I miss doing that show. I got to be stupid on it and do a lot of dad jokes and be really bad humor.
Oh, that would be right up Tim's alley. That would exactly. He's a connoisseur of the dad jokes. That's to be sure. Stuart in the chat saying this community is amazing. Great crew of people bubbling with positivity and creativity. I agree. Sandrine, when I decided to start drawing again, I watched the Carl shows, the draw along shows. There you go.
Oh, cool.
So you've rebooted people's drawing, which is excellent.
Well, that's what else? I can end my day there with that information.
That's a great thing, isn't it?
Well, they're all still there. They're just sitting there on Behance and YouTube if anybody wants to watch anything back. The first 10 minutes of every show was just a simple drawing anyone could do using simple shapes and lines and nothing fancy. Really had fun with it. It was a good time. I went from I watched a few of those, and then I watched Cody's Draw This in Your Style. Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, I like that show. Good show.
Yeah, and also there's something really soothing about that show. She had a great, she still does shows.
Yeah.
But her presentation style, like you feel very
good vibe.
Yeah, good vibe. Nothing bad's gonna happen here.
No, I think we're all having a good time. Excellent.
All right, so let's go ahead, and I've been playing with this for so long now. I'm just kind of, in this zone, and I think it's time for me to see if I can bring some other stuff in here. I kind of like where this is going. It's got like a pastel kind of a feel. I didn't intend for that. And a lot of times when I start something, there is no real intention behind it other than just to make marks and then see what kind of comes out of it. But let me just throw this other bit of the bow tie there into place there. We'll just get that there. All right, good enough. And I like doing this to carve around something, just kind of help to shape it by painting whatever's next to it. It's an old trick, certainly nothing new there. Pop some of that purple in there. I love that purple is really making me happy in this piece. I'm using it everywhere. Shadows and
Tim's saying, don't forget to save your project. I should imagine if Annika Argul is in the chat also, she'll be saying, save.
Oh, I haven't saved it. All right, save. I don't know, I'll just save it wherever. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. No, Photoshop's been very good to me. It hasn't crashed or anything. And
I think generally.
Yeah.
I think generally Photoshop is way more stable these days.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, there was some version I was on that was a little funny, but oh, it says my internet connection. Speaking of stable, it says my internet connection's unstable. I hope I'm still coming through for you.
Yeah, no, you're all good. There was just a tiny bit of flickering only a moment ago, but otherwise been strong throughout. So it's all good.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here, let's try something here. So we're gonna mix it up here. I'm gonna go for we got all these fun brushes like Ziggy and all this other good stuff. And I could use like a layer mode here. Maybe we'll do like an overlay or something like that. And I can throw some stuff over here. I'm gonna use a different color here. Go a little bigger. I'm just gonna throw in some of these lightning bolt kind of ziggy odds and ends. Throw those in there. And let's see what we can do here. We got hard light. Let's try maybe multiply. I like that. That's kind of cool. Color burn. Reduce the opacity on that 50%. And that's just a nice little subtle way to just all of a sudden do something to kind of unify things, up the contrast, make it more interesting. Something we all can try at home. Hey, try this at home. It is safe to try at home. No one's going to get hurt when you do this kind of stuff. Nope. And then let's go over here and we're going to do some drawing. And we've got these other brushes too we can play around with. I mean, like the stars, things like that. You know, we talked about that. Again, these are not yet, they're not in the set right now, just because there's a little bit of a library thing that we'll get that resolved ASAP. So
oh, cool. And Maddie Belwar is in the house as well. I had a glitch on chat for a moment. Chat froze for me. All of a sudden it's lit up because Maddie's in the house. Hi, Maddie.
Hello.
Maddie's own stream on Behance, of course, Wednesday afternoon. She'll be around. Yes.
There we go. Some action there. Okay, and we talked about drawing. So I think because I like that brush so much, I'm gonna just jump on down to that Genie inker for a second. And I'm gonna grab some of this. And here, just want to see what happens if I
I'm hoping Tim can whisper something in my ear because there's something strange going on in the chat. Has it tipped across to Maddie's stream? Tim. Oh. Yes. Okay. So Kyle, for some reason, we're still live on YouTube.
Okay.
But we've lost Behance.
Oh, okay.
Just for the minute. So
no worries.
We will see. We don't know why. It's just one of those things.
It's always something exciting.
Yeah. So, and there's nothing we can do about that. But I mean, the stream will be available on demand anyway, so we're all good.
No worries.
And so when I said Maddie was in the house, she was taking it over.
That's funny.
And Tim's sending me information confirming that the replay will be just fine. So that's good.
Okay, fine. No worries. Yeah. Technology.
Every now and then, you know, it's we forget. It's easy to forget. It's ones and zeros bouncing around, you know.
Isn't it amazing all the things you can do with just ones and zeros though? Still,
oh yeah.
Come on. Crazy. So I just thought, you know, I'd try some drawing. And see what happens. And you can let the color go outside of it. You can draw on top. You can just to completely make it a different kind of a piece.
I do hope my friend Dean Harmer is watching this because he's a big Bowie fan.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So then once sorry, go ahead.
No. Carry on. Sorry, you were going to say once you.
Oh, I was just thinking, yeah, I mean, I've only got a few minutes left, but I thought, with this kind of thing, so now the thing that happens when you start to make marks with different tools is you start to have different ideas because you've changed
Mm,
what's on the page. So if I get rid of this, right, I'm still dealing with this sort of more shape-based, more sort of
painterly
not
type.
abstract,
Yeah.
but
Mm,
it's a little less specific. And then line work always makes things more specific. So then you think, okay, do I need to be more specific in other areas? Do I need to start defining areas, with a little bit more specificity? And that then opens up a whole other realm of possibilities for the kinds of marks you're going to make and the kind of image you're going to make. Another thing about using line art like this is that it does add more contrast in these areas because it's dark on light, right?
yeah.
And so then you have to think about balancing stuff. So at this point, probably what I'm going to do is go to my crop because I have this area selected here that was a square because the original composition is in a square. And I'm going to go ahead and go to cropping that. So image, crop. And there we go.
There you are.
And then I can really just look at it for a second and think, okay, now what do I want to do to start bringing this to the next level? So one thing I would do is if I have no line art, this entire piece I could just take a lot of these little darks like this, and using some of the brushes I was using a moment ago, for example, like the Hunky, which we play around with a lot. And we also play with this Heroes Heavy, brushes like this, starting to just pull in certain areas, some darks.
That's
Okay,
great.
so
Like
that
a nice vignette of the.
exactly.
Yeah.
We wind up moving towards the subject matter, towards the hero.
Yeah.
Not to use another Bowie song, but but yeah, so that helps to start to bring that in. And then of course I could leave this open so that we maybe get a sense of like light.
So there's also, I don't know if this was intentional, but there's also a kind of a bee represented behind him there.
Oh,
if you look at the
wow.
pastel green going across and then
Ooh.
the microphone cable
Ooh.
coming around, you've got almost like a swat. Can you see it? It's
sure can. In fact, I'm going to play that up a bit.
Love that.
Tony, good eye.
Happy accident. That's the thing. You must, from your traditional days, you must remember happy accident.
You know what? Happy accidents were just the best.
Yeah.
I needed them. Sometimes they'll save something.
Saved me on many occasions, my friend. So,
You're not alone. Ooh, there is a bee right there. Good call, Tony. I like it.
Hey, thank you. Welcome.
In fact, I kind of want to.
Well, no, I think his leg and his right torso is actually doing a really good job of suggesting that shape, because I think it's nice that it's not a piece of graphic art and it's not a direct representation, but it's just something that a viewer can discover.
I think you are correct. That is cool. Well, I'm happy about that. I think you just elevated this. You just elevated it to where it needed to be.
Oh no, man, it's you. You were doing it, and I'm sure that inside you were baking that up all the time. I think.
I don't know.
Got it all going on in there,
I would love to think that were the case. I don't know.
I'm sure it is.
I think, and so now and this is the thing I love about working with layers and with Photoshop and working in a digital environment, is you can make decisions and you can decide, okay, I'm at a point now where I know that time is ticking, got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
So do I want to get to some point where things feel pretty resolved? And the way I would do that with a piece like this is I would make a call. I'd say, okay, you know what's working right now is this sort of non-specific mark making. It's like it's shape based, it's all that good stuff, and that is what makes it feel like there's some cohesion there. So if I were to go the line art route, which we looked at just a moment ago, I probably have to change a lot more and I wouldn't be able to sort of just leave it alone at this point. And I think for that reason, I'm just going to stick with this kind of.
I think this is personally, this is my preference, because there's real motion in that. You can tell it's not just the pose that's giving the dynamic to this. It's all of the marks that show you that you are in a moving environment, that everything there is part of a moving dynamic scene.
Well, you sold me.
But no, it is. That's the beauty of it. You know, once you start adding in the definition of line work, you are freezing that moment. Where here it's not totally frozen. You do get the sense that you are amidst, you know, something that is happening.
I agree with you. And I think this is the way to go. I think this is the way to keep it less. I agree with you. I want it to be as interesting a piece as possible in the limited time we have here, and keeping it using this kind of language, this vocab, if you will, is going to be the way to go.
And Photoshop definitely needs a reference window that isn't a plugin.
Oh boy, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Popular request.
Well, I should do really good. User voice, isn't it? I think Photoshop team have a user voice, I think.
I think so, but I know that it's come in before.
I mean, I've tried.
Drag it off the canvas.
Yeah, I've tried doing it with split windows. I've tried having a separate document open.
Yeah.
But I then also think that all of that stuff, because it's the only thing was with doing that, rather than having a photo reference window with just images inside of it, is if you do the split document way, you end up with Photoshop needing all of that 3.5 times the image size for memory requirement, you know, and all you're doing is slowing down potentially your painting operations, whereas something that was just neutral, didn't need to invoke layers or any other parts of the Photoshop engine, I think would be a step in the right direction.
All right. Well, Stephen Nielsen, are you listening? Are you watching this stream? He is, yes. Our guy.
Yeah, I think there's a new person as well, I think. I'm trying to remember what his name is. Neil, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think there's some couple of changes gone on, I think recently, but I mean that's an Adobe thing. But yeah, we're just in the last couple of minutes or so, Carl. This has been, I looked forward to this, you know, all week. Well, in fact, ever since I found out we were doing it. And
oh wow.
Yeah, I've loved spending this time.
As have I, Tony. Of course, I've only known you through Slack.
Yeah. Oh no, we met once at a dinner. I think we met at a dinner in 2017.
Where were we? Because
we were in because it was 2017 you were hired, wasn't it, or was it 2016?
I was hired in 2017. Very late in October 2017.
Yeah, so it was not long after you were hired. The announcement
was it in Las Vegas?
It was in no, it was in LA. I'm pretty sure. Oh, maybe. I don't know. It was an illustrator dinner. Renee DeCherry organized it.
Oh, that was well, I went to 2 of those.
Yeah. It was for one of them was for the beginning of Fresco, I think. But it wasn't.
That would have been in LA.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was Wolfgang Puck. I think we were at Wolfgang Puck. Yeah.
That was in LA, I think. Yeah. That was right by the hotel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything for me, these things all blur together because there's like a lot of overlap with that stuff where it's like, well, I know we're in this fancy place where I can only order one thing off the menu because I've got a billion dietary restrictions.
Oh, right.
And so restaurants to me just don't mean anything anymore.
Right.
But yeah, forgive me. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, mainly, I mean, we chatted for a short amount of time there, but no, Slack, yes, definitely. But no, make sure you look me up next time you come over to this side of the pond. It would be great.
Well, I'm just sad that I couldn't join everybody for what's going on there this week, and that just looks like such a good time.
Oh, well, there'll be other opportunities. There'll be the things post-Max, of course, I dare say. So, yes, but that's it. We are at time.
All right. There you
Fabulous,
go.
mate.
I hope you
I
enjoyed it.
love this. You are going to post it, right? You're not
Yeah,
just going to dispense with it.
I'll play with it for another 5 minutes or so, and then yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, it's been fabulous having you on. For those of you who are watching on demand, thanks for watching, and join us every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on behance.net/Adobe Live, midday here in the UK. And for those of you that were watching live and have caught up with the rest on stream, sorry about that, but these things happen. We had a little bit of a technical glitch, but it's been great being here, great having you all here, and fabulous having you here, Kyle. Thank you so much. Okay, take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon here on behance.net/Adobe Live.
Ciao for now, everybody.
Bye.